So have you ever had that experience where you just can't quite get on your network, or your network address seems to just go away? You're surfing along the internet and then all of a sudden, hey, no more network. Well, in many cases that happens when you lose your IP address. And so I'm going to show you a cool tool today called ipconfig. I'm going to hit the start button and then type in CMD for command, and that's going to open up my command window. And ipconfig essentially tells you a little bit about what your network address is and some properties of your network address. So if we just type ipconfig, you'll see we have our IPv6 address, which is the version 6, which came out most recently, and our IPv4 address, which is the old school address, which has been around since the 50s or before even. And so this tells us what our address is on our local network, and it tells us what network we're on. And you can also do ipconfig/all. That tells you a little more information. Here we've got the description of our actual network controller. We have our addresses. We actually have the address of our DHCP server. This is the wireless access point in my case, or a router, which actually hands you your address. And you also have the lease date and the date at which your lease expires. So mine is set to expire every day. So once a day, my computer has to get a new IP address, and it will go and talk to the router and say, hey, my lease is up, give me a new IP address. In public hotspots, you'll find that that lease time is very, very short. Sometimes it can be as short as a minute, but usually it's maybe 10 minutes or an hour. So every time that occurs, you're actually going out and getting a new IP address, and usually a router is smart enough to give you the same one that you had before. But if you find yourself coming offline, or you're not connecting to the network at your friend's house or something like that, there's a real quick way to see if you can get a new address, and that's just to do an ipconfig/release. And what that does is release your IP address, so now you'll definitely be off the network. You'll notice my address is now blank. And then if I do an ipconfig/renew, we are talking to the router and saying, hey, give me a new IP address. And we get a response, and I got the same address back. And that little trick, in many cases, will get you right back online when you've been cut off from either a poor signal connection or from some other random circumstance. So if you find yourself clicking in and offline, give that a shot, and hopefully it will work for you. We'll talk to you next time.